أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to G4 Holy Qur'an Recitation Class for Muta'allimat. Jazakallah for attending and arriving on time. Inshallah, we are going to start our class. I'm your day teacher for today, and I will be supported by the teacher assistant and support teacher. I just have an announcement that before I start, if any of the students feel like they need more help with practicing, then please raise their hands and we will note them down. And inshallah, in the future, we will start breakout rooms for them to provide more practice for the rules. So let's start our class with the holy recitation of the Holy Quran. Can I please request the ST to please pick a student?
Could I please request G4724 to unmute?
G4724, Assalamu alaikum. G4724. Okay, can I have another student, please?
Yes. Could I please request G4733 to unmute?
G4733, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Can you start the recitation of the Holy Quran starting with Ta'awuz and Tasmiyah?
जी. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Our Lord, grant us good in this world as well as good in the world to come, and protect us from the torment from the fire.
Jazakallah, very well recited. There were just a couple of points that I wanted to say. One was about ta'awuz, that we have Allah here 2 times, and we will pronounce this with a thin sound. A'udhu billah. And again, Bismillah. So would you like to recite it again?
जी. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Good, much well recited. And this verse of the Holy Quran, you did it very well. I only wanted to say that, sometimes we have to pay attention to the pronunciation. And, if it's a thick sound or a thin sound, it will make the recitation more beautiful. But otherwise, mashallah, very well done. Jazakallah.
Thank you so much.
Next, can I please have a student for Hadith?
Could I please request G4719 to unmute?
G4719, Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. An Usman radhiyallahu anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam khayrukum man ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamahu. Hazrat Usman bin Affan narrates that Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The best among you is the one who learned the Quran and teaches it." Al-Bukhari number 5027.
Jazakallah, very well recited. One of the main points that I just wanted to mention was, the thin sounded words and the thick sounded words. So the main reason I was saying is because your kaf and qaf have, yes,
that's
exactly.
That's kum and that's qur.
Exactly. Do you want to recite it again?
خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه.
Jazakallah. But again, this kum needs to be pronounced like khayrakum, khayrukum, not kum. Yeah, so with the k. Yes. And we had the same problem in Durud Sharif. It's not innaqa, it's innaka. Innaka.
Okay, innaka.
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 Yeah, so it's still a bit thick, but inshallah with
It's not thick.
practice.
I have to make it thin, like
Thin, yes.
innaka.
Yes, much better. Jazakillah.
Thank you.
So next, can I please have a student from Al-Fuza?
Could I please request G4703 to unmute?
G4703, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Can you please recite the sayings of the promised Messiah alayhi salam?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Sayings of Prophet Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. The Quran should also be recited cheerfully, but there is such an emphasis that the person who doesn't recite the Quran cheerfully is not one of us. And this is an effect in itself. When a good speech is made cheerfully, it also has an effect. If the same speech is not made in a cheerful manner, it has no effect. The thing in which God Almighty has an effect, what is the harm in making it a tool to draw towards Islam? The Psalms of David were in the songs. It has been said that when Hazrat Daud used to pray to God Almighty, the mountains also wept with him, and the birds also glorified. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Now I will hand over to the TA for today's quiz.
Jazakillah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So let's start today's quiz. And question number 1 for today's quiz is, which animal accompanied the Ashabul Kahf as mentioned in the Holy Qur'an? A. Dog. B. Mule. C. Camel. Or D. A horse. ST, we need an ID for the answer.
Could I please request G4739 to unmute?
G4739. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. A. Dog.
Jazakillah. Yes, your answer is correct. Dog was the animal which accompanied Ashabul Kahf, and Ashabul Kahf means the people of cave. Kahf means cave. Jazakillah. Next question. What is the meaning of tafkhim in the rules of tilawat? Options are A. To pronounce with thin sound. B. To pronounce with thick sound. C. To pronounce with moderate sound. Or option D. To pronounce as you like. ST, kindly unmute another ID.
Could I please request G4739 to unmute?
G47.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
It's B, to pronounce with thick sound.
Jazakillah, and your answer is correct. Inshallah, we will explore this rule today, and your answer is also correct. So tafkhim means to pronounce with a thick sound. Well done. Next question. What is the meaning of the word Qur'an? Options are A. One which is read often. B. The final book. C. Most blessed book. Or D. One which is followed most. ST, kindly unmute another ID.
Could I please request G4769 to unmute?
G4769. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Option A, one which is read often.
Jazakillah, and your answer is correct. So the word Quran means one which is read often. Well done. Next question. In Surah Al-Hijr, Allah says, we have indeed given thee the 7 oft repeated verses and the great Quran. Verses of which surah are being referred to? A. 7 verses of Suratul Kafirun. B. 7 verses of Surah Az-Zilzal. C. 7 verses of Al-Fatiha. Or D. 7 verses of Suratul Nas. ST, kindly unmute an ID for the answer.
Could I please request G4702 to unmute?
G4702. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. It's option C, Al-Fatiha.
Jazakillah, and your answer is correct. So the verses of Surah Al-Fatiha are called the 7 oft repeated verses of Holy Quran. Well done. And last question of today's quiz is, what does the term ta'awuz mean? Options are A, seeking blessings of Allah, B, seeking mercy of Allah, C, seeking forgiveness of Allah, and option D is seeking refuge with Allah. ST, we need last ID for the quiz.
Could I please request G4737 to unmute?
Okay, G4737. Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum
D.
assalam.
Seeking refuge with Allah.
Jazakillah, but the correct answer is, so you said D. Yes, you are right. And the meaning of ta'awuz is seeking refuge with Allah. You are right, mashallah. Well done. And this was the last question of today's quiz. So let's go back to our DT.
Jazakallah. So we are going to start with our lesson for today. And as you can see, our lesson for today is about tafkhim, tarqiq, majestic lam, and letter of Ra. And let me just change the slide. So first, we are going to start with the attributes and properties of Arabic letter. We know that there are 29 letters in Arabic language. In terms of pronunciation, all Arabic letters can be recognized by their attributes and properties, and they may fall into 3 groups. So the first group contains those letters which are always pronounced with a thick and heavy sound. And in this way, they have a permanent tafkhim quality. For example, we have the letter qa, the qa with 2 dots, qaf, and you can read it qala. And then we also have an example written over here. We have ta, taba. The second category we have is letters which are always articulated with a thin and light sound. And they have the quality of tarqiq. It means these letters will be pronounced with a light sound. For example, if I pick a similar sounding letters, we can see over here, we have ta with 2 dots. And it will be read as taba. Whereas this one is thick, ta, taba. You can see the difference in pronunciation very clearly. And another example we do is when we recite the Holy Qur'an. So the first thing, like we just began our Holy Qur'an, we had ta'awuz and tasmiyah. And we can see here example of ta. It's a thick sound. A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. It's not shaytanir rajim, it's shaytanir rajim. And if I go back to the slide, 1 second. Let me just quickly. Yeah. So then we have those letters that are pronounced with a thick and heavy sound, and other times with a thin and light sound, and they're subject to certain conditions, like lam mushaddad, majestic lam, and letter of Ra. Another example that comes into my mind for tarqiq is, if you remember in Surah Al-Baqarah, we have verse ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. So kitabu, it's also ta with a thin sound. And like I mentioned in the third category, we have lam mushaddad. Lam mushaddad means any lam that is bearing the mark or the stroke of tashdid, shadda. And majestic lam is known, the lam mushaddad on the letter of Allah is known as majestic lam. And then we have letter Ra. Inshallah, I'll go into detail. But again, going back to tasmiyah, we have over here, you can see the example, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now this lam, due to certain conditions, which I will go in the explore further with you later on, is going to be pronounced with a thin sound. Okay, it's not going to be pronounced with a thick sound. Bismillah, that's wrong. That's not the way we pronounce it. We'll pronounce it Bismillah. And we have further examples. Inna Allaha kana. You can see this one is read with a tick sound. Wattaqullaha, another example of tick, lam jalala. Now for letter Ra, Ra also is a letter that has certain conditions in it. And due to those conditions, we will either read it with a tick sound or either with a tin sound. This one, Rabbi, Rizqan, Rusulihi, and I'll go further into detail about how these are going to be read. For one thing we can keep in mind for Lam Mushaddad is Surah Al-Ikhlas, and you have, Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, and these words, this Allah in Surah Al-Ikhlas is read thickly. Inshallah, I'll tell you why once we go on. Here we can see Takhfim, and we have Murakkak, Tarqiq letters as well. And this is the types of tick sound and thin sound. And in Tajweed rule, as we focus on exploring to them, the recitation of the Holy Qur'an will be read in a beautiful manner, as we also read through an hadith. So the first thing is like, what is Tafkhim and Tarqiq? This is an important concept in terms of pronunciation of letters. Tafkhim means heaviness and thickness, whereas Tarqiq means lightness and thinness. So Tafkhim and Tarqiq are basically two opposites. Heaviness, lightness. Thickness, thinness. Tafkhim means, as I said, thickness and heaviness. Out of 29 letters, we have 7 letters that are pronounced with a thick sound. So they have the quality of Tafkhim. Kha, Sad, Dad, Ghain, Ta, Qaf, Za. And we will pronounce them with a thick sound. And they are called, thick sounding letters are called mufakham, elevated, because in pronunciation they are elevated and they must be pronounced with a thick and heavy sound. So these examples will be read with a thick, heavy, or broad sound, whichever way you can say it. Khalidan, lasadiqun, bidarin, ghafirin, taba, qala, taladha, khalaqa, sadaqa, daraba, ghafara, taba'a, yulaqa, ad-danneen. So as you can see, I've read it with a thick sound. And these are the 7 letters that I read in the thick sound, with tafkhim. Now there are 5 levels of tafkhim, as you can see here. And they will be pronounced with different levels of tafkhim. And you can hear the differences in the level of pronunciation. So, alif after a maftu letter, qala, khalidin, lasadiqun. So, if there is an alif after a maftu letter, like here, qala, taba, ghafirin, so it has a different level of tafkhim. Now, if there's no alif after maftu letter, you can feel the difference when we read it. Khayrun, sadaqa, daraba, you can feel the difference. Now, if the third level is with dhamma, tasumu, qulu, duriba. And if there is with sukun or jazam, fayaqtuluna vayaqtuluna, fasbir. And with kasra, sirat al-mustaqim. So you can see the different levels of thicknesses that we pronounce while reciting it. Moving on, Tarqiq. As you know, Tarqiq means lightness and thinness. Out of 29 letters, if we remove the 7 letters of tafkhim, which are Kha, Sad, Dad, Ghain, Ta, Qaf, and Za, and there are 3 more letters which we can exclude, Alif, Lam, Ra. Then 19 letters will always be pronounced with a thin and light sound. Thin sounding letters are called muraqqaq, unelevated letters. So, ذلك زان سابق شاحد عالية فاتر كافر. So you can see it's pronounced with a thin and light sound. Now I will go on further for further examples of lam and ra. And you know, the thin sounded letters are known as muraqqaq, and that's what tafkhim and tarqiq are. They're two basic opposites. And you know, for alif of elongation, which is mentioned over here, it is always dependent on the preceding mukhaffam or muraqqaq letter. So it depends what letter it is. Does it contain a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra? I'll go that into detail. So moving on, we are going to talk about majestic lam, lam al-jalala. So what is lam mushaddad? Lam mushaddad, as you know, there are two types of lam mushaddad. Lam mushaddad means any letter that has, any lam that has a shadda. And you know, for Surah Al-Ikhlas has lam mushaddad in 4 times, which I mentioned previously. And there are 2 kinds of lam mushaddad. Number 1, we have lam mushaddad in the divine name of Allah, and also known as lamul jalala. So we have examples. Bismillah, Balillah, Sha'Allah, Yuridullah, Allahumma malikal mulki. So as you can see, we have over here, we have Allah, lam in Allah. Again, here we have lam in Allah, so forth. Allahumma, now there are 2 types of Allah mentioned in the Holy Qur'an. The normal Allah, and then we have Allahumma. That's a special rule. That means when prayers are mentioned, we see many examples in the Hadith, also in the Quran. Some prayers start with Allahumma. So both of them, lam al-jalala is any lam in the name of divine name of Allah. And the second example of lam mushaddad is any lam other than the name of Allah. We have Allah, alladhi, illa, halafin. So these are the 2 types of lam mushaddad. Now, first of all, we will talk about majestic lam. You know, the first example, lam mushaddad, which is in the name of Allah, is called lam al-jalala, which means majestic lam. Here we have to mind the thick and thin sound. Lam al-jalala, majestic lam, will be pronounced with a thick and broad sound if it is preceded by a vowel mark of fatha or dhamma. With tafkhim, we'll read it. All other examples of lam mushaddad will be pronounced with a thin sound, with tarqiq. So you can see examples over here. Thick sound of Allahu, Tallahi. There's fatha preceding the lam mushaddad in both of these examples. But it will be thin if there's kasra. Billahi, Amillahu. It will be thick again with fatha, Qala Allahu, and even with dhamma, Kitabullahi. And for thin sounds of Allah, if it's kasra, Qulillahu, Falillahu, Bismillahi, Amrillahi. So as you can see, there are the different types of Allah, but depending on the previous letter after lam mushaddad, does it contain dhamma? Does it contain fatha? Does it contain kasra? So thick and broad sound will be only for fatha and dhamma. Moving on, we have thin lam mushaddad. Lam mushaddad in the name of Allah will be pronounced with a thin and empty sound if previous mutaharrik letter bears a kasra. Apart from the word Allah, all other lam mushaddad must always be pronounced with a thin sound. So you can see here, Bismillahi, Alhamdulillahi, Afillah, and any other, La'alla, Bikulli, Allah, they will be pronounced with a thin sound. So moving on, we have thickness, tafkhim of ra. So when will it be pronounced with thick sound? Ra mutaharrik vowel will be pronounced with tafkhim if it bears the vowel mark of fatha or dhamma or its tanween. So Rabbi, Rubbama, Al-Birra. Another example, Raji'un, Rubama, Ar-Rahim. Ra sakin will be pronounced with tafkhim if the preceded mutaharrik letter bears a fatha or dhamma, or if ra sakin precedes it by hamazatul wasl, blank alif, or a mufakham letter appears next to it. So with sakun, if there is a fatha preceding it, arsala or dhamma preceding a ra sakin, yurzaqun. And ra, you need to remember, if there is a fatha or a dhamma preceding ra or ra sakin, then it will be read with a thick sound. Moving on quickly, when will be pronounced with a thin sound? It will be if ra mutaharrik has a kasra preceding it, or if it has a kasra and below it, I mean. Rihun, sharri, bishararin, or at-tanween as well, kasra at-tanween. Then also it will be during waqf. If there's a waqf, then rasa, that's the second part, ra sakin will be pronounced with tarqiq if the mutaharrik letter bears a kasra or happens to be a ya sakin. This equally applies to ra sakin due to observing a pause. Fakabbir, hijr, if I do a pause, hijr. And over here as well, al-munir. So we have to pronounce it with the thin sound. Now there are three words where the reciter may choose to apply tafkhim or tarqiq. Firqin, misr, al-qitr. So it depends, only these three words you can apply tafkhim or you can apply tarqiq. So further examples of waqf here we have basir, khabir, qadir, and then you can see the other ra which contain a kasra will also be pronounced with a thin sound. Rihun, la zikri, fil barri. So as we're running out of time, I will practice this later, but first we'll go to the TA for surah practice.
Jazakallah, Titi. Inshallah, we will look for these examples of these rules in our surah. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Jazakallah. Okay, as we have announced earlier that those students who want to do more practice or who want to take more time for surah practice or recitation practice, they can raise your hands again now, or admin will note those IDs, and inshallah we will open breakout rooms in our future classes and give you more time to practice. Okay. So admin, I hope you have noted these ID. And now we are going to start the practice of Surah Fatir. And ST, please unmute an ID for the recitation. Jazakumullah.
Could I please request G4738 to unmute?
G4738.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Okay. So could you start the recitation with Ta'awuz and Tasmiyah? And everyone, you can lower your hands now. Jazakumullah. Yes, you can.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يؤمر من مؤمر ولا ينقص من أمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير.
Jazakallah, mashallah, well done. But you made a few mistakes and corrected, like here. What type of alif is it? G4738?
The alif madya.
Yes, and what is the rule for alif madya?
There should be two counts of elongation.
Yes, so how would you pronounce this word? Complete word.
Turabin.
Well done. So we should give 2 second time for the alif madya. And you seem to me a bit confused about clear known, like whether you have to pronounce it with clear sound or not. So inshallah, we will cover this rule later, and with practice, we can easily recognize whether we have to pronounce it clearly or not. Okay, and here, what type of stroke is it? Under the moon? Yes.
1 second.
Yes, it needs only 1 second to be prolonged. So it is bi'ilmi, right?
Bi'ilmi.
Yes, and we should not prolong Fat Maftu letter, like here it is Mim Mushaddad. It takes 2 seconds to be pronounced. Muammarin, but Fatha stroke should be kept short. Okay?
Ji.
Right. And here, if you want to stop here, what change will you bring into this word?
Sukoon, sword with sukoon.
So, yunqasu will be changed into?
Yunqas.
Yes, sword will become a sucking letter. Well done. And what type of letter is dot?
It's a thick sound.
Well done. It is one of the thick letters. And how many thick letters are there?
7.
Well done. Excellent. Jazakallah. G4738. Mashallah, you recited well. Well done. ST, we need another ID for recitation.
Yes, could I please request G4756 to unmute?
G4756. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, could you start the recitation with Awuz and Tasmiyah from here?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله لعلكم تشكرون.
Well Jazakallah. What is this wow here? Wa?
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
What?
So let's have a look on your mistakes. So here, here, and here, on these 3 points, you had to pronounce this tanween with a nasal sound, okay, not with a clear noun. Asbun, furatun, sa'igun, sharabu. Why? Inshallah, we will learn this rule later, okay? And here, if you want to stop, how should you stop?
Lahma.
Sorry, yes, lahma. We should prolong this fatha because it is followed by a blank alif. So what type of alif will it become? Alif mad, if you are stopping, okay? Otherwise, we can pronounce the tanween if you are continuing, okay? And what type of ra is it? Like what type of ra is it acting here as?
Ra fatha.
Yes, if ra is fatha, should we pronounce it with the thick sound or a thin sound?
Thick.
Well done, Jazakallah. So ra, if it is carries a fatha on top of it, it should be pronounced with a thick sound. So how would you pronounce this word? Start from here.
Mawakhira.
Yes, again with thick sound.
Mawakhira.
Mawakhira. Okay.
Mawakhira.
Yes. And what type of letter is it? In which category does it fall?
Which category?
Yes. We learned about this word letter today. Sound? Yes, it is one of the thick letters or mufakham letters. Okay. So do you know how many mufakham letters are there?
7 thick sound letters.
Well done, Jazakallah. And what type of letter is it? Is it mufakham or not?
Yes, because dot is muqaffam letter.
Yes, it is also a thick sounding letter, whether it is carried as a cone sign or any short stroke. Okay, Jazakallah. So Jazakallah, G4756, well done. ST, please unmute another ID for recitation.
Could I please request G4769 to unmute?
G4769, Assalamu alaikum. G4769.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Okay, could you start the recitation with Tawuz and Tasmiyah?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Shall I start from there? Wallahu khalaqakum min turabin thumma min nutfatin thumma ja'alakum azwaja wama ta'milu min unsa wala taza'u illa bi'ilmi wama yuhammuru min wama yu'ammaru min من مؤمر ولا ينقض من أموري إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير.
Jazakallah. You tried well, but the major mistake you were making, or most often mistake you were making, was prolonging short strokes. Okay, here you prolong this fatha. It needs only 1 second to be pronounced, so it is khalaqakum. Okay.
Yeah.
And here you prolonged all short strokes, fatha, fatha, dhamma. All of these strokes need only 1 second each to be pronounced. So it is tada'a, tada'u. Okay. And here meme should not be prolonged because it has only a short stroke, kasra underneath it. And how did you pronounce this word? Here.
Yuhamuru.
No, it's ain. Okay, so the word is yu'ammaru.
Yu'ammaru.
Okay, and what letter is it? Is it dad or sod?
Sod.
So what is this word?
Yunkasu.
Yunqasu. Well done. And can you see any thick letter in this word? Okay.
Yes, the
Qaf?
qaf.
Is it a thick letter or not?
It's a thick letter.
And sod?
Yes.
It is also a thick letter.
Yes, a thick.
Okay, so there are 7 thick letters, and qaf and sod are also
thick letters.
Also the thick letters. And here, how did you pronounce this word?
Umurihi.
You are right now. So well done. And what type of stroke is it?
Vertical fatha.
Well done. And how long should it be pronounced for?
For 2 seconds.
Jazakillah, well done. It is one of the Ishbaiya strokes. So you are G4769. Okay. Jazakillah for the recitation. ST, kindly unmute another ID and let me prepare this. Okay.
Could I please request G4737 to unmute?
G4737. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. So could you please start with Tawuz and Tasmiyah?
A'udzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa ma yastawil bahrani hadha azbun furatun sa'ighun sharabuhu wa hadha milhun ujaj wa min kullin ta'kuluna lahman tariyyan wa tastakhrijuna halyatan talbisunaha.
Okay, Jazakillah. I think we should discuss the mistakes now. Okay. You tried well, but here, what type of stroke is it?
Dhamma.
Dhamma stroke. So how should you pronounce this word?
Furatun.
Yes, furatun. So with nasal sound, and bean should be pronounced with nasal sound. Okay. And seen. Is it a thick letter or not?
No.
Well done. And how did you pronounce this word?
Sharabuhu.
So what is the rule for this blank alif?
As 2 second Long.
How did you recognize?
It's a
Because its previous letter is?
Fatah.
Yes, the maftu letter. Okay, so you did not apply this rule. So could you please pronounce only this word again?
Sharabuhu.
Well done, you corrected it. And what about this lam? Is it a thick lam or not?
No.
But you pronounced it in thick sound. So could you please repeat this word?
Kullin.
Perfect this time. And what about this word? What is it?
It's a
No, pronounce this word again.
Helyatan.
So ha, is it carrying a fatha or a kasra?
Kasra. Hilyatan.
Yes, with a thinner sound. Hilyatan. Okay. So Jazakillah. Inshallah, you will learn these rules with practice. Okay. You tried well, mashallah. So Jazakillah G4 737. We can have another ID. STA, kindly unmute one last ID for the recitation practice.
Yes, could I please request G4726 to unmute?
G4 726.
726, yes.
G4 726.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Okay. Could you please start the recitation with Tabuz and Tasmiya?
Ji. Sorry.
From here. Okay.
Sorry, do you mind saying? I couldn't see that. From back? Okay.
From here.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. يولج الليل في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى.
Jazakillah G4 726. Your voice is melodious, mashallah, and you are reciting well, but I am unable to hear you properly. Your voice is sinking. Okay, so I think we should stop here. And mashallah, you recited well, but I am a bit not sure about these ra, whether to pronounce these ra with these maftoof ra with the thick sound or thin sound. So what do you think? How should we pronounce these ra's?
It would be with a round mouth, is it?
Yes, with the thick sound. Yes.
Thick
Fataral. Yes.
Fataral.
And when you are pronouncing lam sakin, it should be it shouldn't be a jerking one, okay? Because it is not a jerking letter. So wataral fulka. Okay.
Ji.
And
is that the same with mabakhira? We have to pronounce.
Yes. Same mistake was here, so it should also be pronounced with a thick sound. Okay. And can you see any thick letters in this line?
Qi or ra. Qi.
Qi. Yes.
Qi.
Well,
and ru, da.
Ghain. Yes.
Ghain, yeah. Da.
Dot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ain.
Not really. Ain is another kind of letter. It is throat.
Okay, it's the throat one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So you found, mashallah, 3 thick letters, and one is the ra is also acting as a thick letter because it is carrying a patha. But these 3 letters and other 4 thick letters, altogether 7 letters are called thick letters. Okay.
Ji.
Jazakallah. Well done. And what about this ra? Is it a thick ra or not?
Here would break. So if you're making a break,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be just mar.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's if you would continue, then mara you could read with a sound.
In both conditions, it is a thick ra. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether we stop or not. Okay. Wal qamar, and again wal qamara kullun yajri. Okay.
Okay.
So mashallah, you did well, and I think it is your first day in class.
Ji.
Okay, so welcome to the class, and you can see the recordings of previous missed class on YouTube channel. Okay.
Oh, actually, I was on the classes before, but I didn't read as such.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mashallah, your recitation is good, and jazakallah for reading.
Jazakallah.
So we are left with a few minutes, and I think we should have a recap of the lesson with ODT now. Jazakumullah, everyone.
Jazakallah. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so I'm just going to do the recap of today's lesson. And we went through, today's lesson was about Tafkhim, Tarqiq, Majestic Lam, and letter of Ra. We went through those attributes and properties of Arabic letters, which are 1, Tafkhim, letters which are pronounced with thick and heavy sound, Tarqiq, letters which are pronounced with thin and light sound, and those letters which are sometimes pronounced with a thick and heavy sound or sometimes with a thin and light sound, subject to certain conditions like Lam Mushaddad, Majestic Lam, and letter Ra. We went through what Tafkhim and Tarqiq is. So Tafkhim means heaviness and thickness. Tarqiq is the opposite, means lightness and thinness. And we know the 7 letters of Tafkhim are Ha, Sad, Dad, Ghain, Ta, Qaf, and Za, and they are called Mufakham, elevated sounded letters. And for Tarqiq, all those 7 letters of Tafkhim, apart from those and 3 more letters of Alif, Lam, and Ra, the remaining 19 letters will always be pronounced with a thin and light sound. They are known as Muraqqaq, and they will be pronounced with a thin sound. So we also talked about Lam Mushaddad. There are 2 kinds of Lam. Lam in the name of Allah, known as Lam al-Jalala. So we have Allah, Bismillah, Allahumma. And then we also talked about Lam Mushaddad other than in the name of Allah. And when talking about Lam al-Jalala, we learned that in the name of Allah, if the Lam Mushaddad is preceded by a vowel mark of Fatha or Dhamma, then it will be read with a thick and broad sound. But all other examples of Lam Mushaddad will be pronounced with a thin sound. And the same Lam Mushaddad is like if Lam Mushaddad is being preceded, like I mentioned earlier, by a Kasra, and any other Lams, they will be pronounced with a thin sound. So even this Lam, Allah, it's not Lam al-Jalala, even though it contains Fatha, will be read with a thin sound. And then we went on to learn about thickness of Tafkhim or Ra of Ra. So Ra Mutaharrik is pronounced with a thick sound if it contains the mark of Fatha or a mark of Dhamma, or Tanween, like here. And it will also be read with a thick sound if Ra Sakin is pronounced with, is a preceding Mutaharrik letter, like over here, bears a mark of Fatha or mark of Dhamma. Or again, another point to remember is if it's preceded by a blank alif, like over here, or a mufakham letter appears to it. As you can see, this is Ra Sakin. Preceding Ra Sakin is Mim with Kasra. but we will still pronounce this Ra Sakin with thick sound. Why? Because it is going to join with Sod. As you know, Sod is a thick sound. So mir Sodan. Okay? And the other example we have over here that I want to bring notice is if Kusant Ra, you know, any Ra with Sukun is preceded by Fathar Dhamma, like here, we still read it thick. But also if there is an Alif, with or without a vowel mark. So Alif has Kasra, but like I mentioned, if there is an Alif before Ra Sakin, we will still read it with a thick sound. Irji'i. So there are some points to note about that. Now, moving on to the last point was about thinness of Ra. Ra Mutaharrik will always be pronounced thin if it bears the mark of Kasra. Rihun. And then the second point to remember is Ra Sakin will also be pronounced with a thin sound if the previous letter, like over here, Ba contains Kasra, and this is Ra Sakin, then we will pronounce it with a thin sound. And another thing to remember is if it contains Ya Sakin, so then also we will pronounce it with a thin sound. And this equally applies to when you're doing Waqf. Now there is a correction here before during Surah practice. If I'm doing Waqf here, any Waqf with Ra will be pronounced with a thin sound. Al-Khair. Okay? So these are the examples that we went through. And since we are running out of time, I'll quickly ask the ST if we have time to pick another student for the ending prayer.
Yes, could I please request G4718 to unmute?
G4718.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Can you recite the following prayer?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم آنس وحشتي في قبري اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة اللهم ذكرني منه ما نسيت وعلمني منه ما جهلت وارزقني تلاوته آناء الليل والنهار واجعله لي حجة يا رب العالمين آمين.
Can you
Oh
read the
Allah,
translation?
yeah. Oh Allah, dispel all my fears in my grave. O Allah, have mercy on me through the great Qur'an. Make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance, and the mercy. O Allah, remember me what I forgot from it, and teach me what I do not know of it. Grant me its recitation during the hours of night and day, and make it a witness in my favor, O Lord of all the world. Ameen.
Jazakallah. Very well recited, mashallah. And you pronounced the Lam al-Jalala very well, and you also pronounced the Ra thick and thin sound very well, except I just have one mistake here. So this Ra will be pronounced with a thin sound. Okay, Qabri. Okay, and over here you made a mistake on the Ba. You read it with Dhamma. Can you read this part again?
Rabbul.
Rabbal.
Rabbal Alameen.
Jazakallah, Jaza, very well done. So with this, we are going to end our class. Jazakallah, everybody, for coming. Inshallah, hope to see you in our next class. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.